there and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Come along with our triumvirate of terror as we descend into darkness, hurtle into horror, and plunge into peril. If you're a fan of metal, the genre, well, you're in the right place. I'm Justin, and to date, I've never been turned on by fork licking.
I'm Nico, and I'm a big fan of metal, but I'm an even bigger fan of rock and stone!
Rock and stone.
Well, I'm Dan, and is this what happens when you get tetanus?
Sweet Christ, I hope not.
And we are here today to discuss Tetsuo, the Iron Man. This was directed by Shinya Tsukamoto, who also plays the metal fetishist. Yes, it's that kind of movie. Kei Fujiwara as woman, also the girlfriend in the movie. Nobu Kanaoka as the woman in glasses, also the woman at the subway station. And Tamaruo Taguchi as the man, aka the salary man. Yeah, not really, movie's not big on names, but it's big on something else. And before we get into it, I'm going to toss out a quick trigger warning. Now, this is odd because, okay, the trigger warning is for sexual assault, but I don't even know if it's really sexual assault because this movie is that fucking confusing. So we do this to be on the safe side, but in truth, I don't know what the fuck is going on in this movie. Also, this plot is mad disjointed, so we tried our best to piece it together, give you a real upper crust, synopsis here. So let's get started. We open with the metal fetishist in his metal sanctuary. He's into like the physical metal, not like the music. Maybe he is, I don't know, never asked him. He's a wild boy though, so he literally cuts his leg open and shoves some metal into it. Now, this turns out to not be the right move because the wound gets infected and starts leaking maggots. He panics and runs out into the street, but ends up getting run over. More on that later. For now, we're going to change, and Dan, who else are we talking about in this movie?
Well, we're also talking about Salaryman, and he is shaving. Well,
Nice.
Unfortunately for him, he's got a metal protrusion sticking out of his skin somehow. So he pops it like a pimple, as you do. And a burst of blood ejaculates from his face, and yes, I just said that. But it will get weirder, don't worry. He covers it up and gets ready for work, but also talks to his girlfriend real quick, and she mentions that there apparently was a hit-and-run incident. We get a quick flash of the two of them having sex, but more on that later.
All right, well, I want to know more about that, but Nico, something's going on with this movie and metal. Do you have any insight into that?
So, the salaryman has horrifying visions of metal, again, the material, not the music, and he sits next to a woman at a train station. And at this point, she sees some metal on the ground and pokes at it. And it almost looks like we're seeing a television screen of her doing it from the other side. It's weird. And she gets possessed by the metal fetishist at this point and transforms into this metal flesh abomination thing and just starts attacking the salaryman, just going absolutely feral. She beats his ass for a little bit, but somehow he manages to triumph in the end. Unfortunately for him, though, he sees that now his arm has a metal attachment. Again, material, not the music.
Well, things start to get kind of weird if they weren't already. So here we go. The salaryman has this dream of his girlfriend, partner, wife, I don't know, I'm not going to put a label on their relationship. But in this dream, she's got a real phallic, windy metal thing, kind of like a strap-on almost.
Drill. It's a dick drill.
No, the dick drill's
comes later.
That comes later. Shit, that comes later. You're right. I'm sorry. The dick drill comes later.
In this dream, she takes that really long, windy, phallic metal thing and shoves it right up his ass.
Oh, right.
Word.
Mm-hmm.
We then move on to the salaryman, like in real life, because that was just a dream. So in real life now, he's having sex with this chick. And can I just say, they go literally from the floor to the walls.
To the
I thought they were going to go on the ceiling. But that happens. And afterwards, they have a real erotic post-sex meal where he's like fucking his pot up by using silverware in the pan. But then also,
amateur move.
She starts like, I don't know how else to say it. She starts like licking a fork and a glizzy on the fork, but then he's like about to nut just from that. So I don't know what's going on there.
I think he does a few times, actually.
Why you have to say that, I don't know, Nico. But Unfortunately, the salaryman at this point in time starts to transform into a flesh metal monstrosity, not unlike the one that he fought off earlier, but he gets way worse. And he hides from his lady. Now, she says she's not afraid and is like, show yourself. But yeah, okay, she's definitely afraid when she actually sees him because dude is turned into a straight up monster. Nico, just no comment, keep going, bro, because this shit's like ripping off a Band-Aid. Just go.
Yeah, so things get even weirder as the salaryman's dick turns into a drill that is so mighty it will pierce the heavens, and he loses control of himself and attempts to kill his girlfriend with it. She eventually fights him off and connects him with a frying pan and stabs him, seemingly defeating him. But then they start to, like, make out. And then she kills herself by, sitting on that drill dick. The salaryman regains... Dear listener, this sounds insane as I say this, and I just watched the movie. This is truly a fucking... It's something. I don't know. It's something. Anyway, the salaryman regains control of himself and is... thankfully... hopefully mournful? I don't know. There's some sort of human trait here, despite all of this. He puts her body in a bathtub, but then she gets possessed by the metal fetishist and attacks him. I am trying, y'all. You see, back when the fetishist got run over, back in the beginning of the movie, that was a salaryman and his girl. Plus, they also had sex, like, right in front of his body. And so now he wants revenge. Are you following this? Because I'm not.
You know, like, when you play, like, Call of Duty when you're in, like, middle school, someone would kill you and then, like, teabag your body?
Yeah.
That's what they did. They, like, ran him over and then just
Yo,
fucked
for
him.
real, though.
Like, what?
It was so odd because she was like, he can see us. Ah! And I was like, this is taking some voyeurism to like the next level, family. All right. That's all I got to say. But Dan, I know we can always count on you to come in clutch here and give us a satisfying ending. Go for it.
Well, I'll try. Metal fetishist appears and engages in combat with the salaryman. He beats the brakes off the salaryman, but is interrupted by a vision of his youth where an older man nearly beat him to death and inserted a metal rod into his head. So I guess that's where he gets his obsession from? I don't know. He shakes it off, though, and he chases the salaryman over to a factory where he uses his metal to begin to merge with him. The salaryman resists, which causes the fetishist to ask why he's resisting. The two can usher in a new metal, not the music, world.
Forfeit the game for somebody else.
Eventually, the two end up merging, and yes, they form a gigantic penis tank and they zoom around town.
Like you do.
They exclaim that their love can destroy the world, and they decide to, quote, rust the world into the dust of the universe. Roll credits, the end.
There you go. Whew. All right. Well,
did you get all that?
We gotta, and you want to know what? I dare you to find a better synopsis online, okay?
Yeah, I don't think
there's nothing
I dare
there.
You.
We have given you this out of the goodness of our hearts.
And the fuck grief, Nico. So, all right then, let's continue. How's it look? And I'm gonna lead this one off. There's a lot to talk about here in terms of looks.
Surprisingly,
I'm gonna just cover what I think might be the more eclectic point, which is there are some scenes, some traveling scenes, as well as some fight scenes in this movie that are like super sped up. Like at one point in time, they're just like zooming around town.
Yo, they zoom a lot. Like he literally has these like shoes that are like booster shoes. Yo, you seen My Hero Academia? You know the fucking ignition or whatever. It's just like
No. So here's where that scene took me. I got two specific vibes from it. The first was just Super Sentai Power Rangers everything, but two, very specifically, the cutscene before Final Rush in Sonic Adventure 2, when Shadow and Sonic are like running down that hallway back and forth and just like talking mad shit at each other. That was the vibe.
Kind of, yeah.
Also, one thing I'd like to point out is sometimes the film, like, so first off, the quality of this movie is not the best. From coming out in 1989, it's not the best, which it seems like a auteur type, experience. But yo, holy shit, sometimes it chooses to like make its quality worse on purpose, and it at times makes it seem like it's coming out of a TV, which sometimes it is. Or, like memories from the past are a little cloudier. So take some interesting liberties with those. But there's something big, something major that I haven't mentioned yet. Dan, what is that?
It's in black and white,
It is.
which was an interesting choice. It also is almost like found footagey sometimes,
Mm.
because like a lot of times it's almost like they're running around with the camera in their hand. So you get like super shaky, and like you see from the perspective of the person sometimes, or maybe not even the character, but just a perspective. Like I don't really know how to describe it, but it reminded me a little bit of found footage.
Okay. Got you there. And Nico, was there anything you picked up from the visuals we haven't discussed?
Yeah, and I I don't know how to say this other than just to be direct with this comparison. This entire movie felt like a Tool music video.
Why is that?
Just the visuals from, I can't remember artists' names. I think it's Alex Morris, Alex Gray, something or other, but like there are a bunch of conceptual artists as well as like sculptors and different artists who use stop motion in a similar way in like a lot of Tool videos, especially Sober, which is the one I was thinking of, where it just looks like there's this tiny little maggot looking dude just kind of vibrating the whole time. And arguably, I would say that's what 90% of this movie looks like. So, like, I genuinely feel as if I could have turned off the sound from this movie and just like fucking played 10,000 Days alongside it. Like, you know how some people do with Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd's Dark Side? I feel like I would have had a pretty kick-ass experience, actually.
All right. Well, you mentioned the sound as well. And, well, what do we think about the sound, Dan?
I liked it, to be honest. It was interesting. The soundtrack, when there was one, was very industrial, which is fitting for a movie about metal and iron and stuff. There was one part near the end-ish, middle-ish, end-ish, I don't know,
Are we talking about the sax?
No, well, not
Yeah,
that,
well-
but there are two times throughout the movie where there's
Two
like
times.
like porn saxophone, porn music kind of thing. But there's one part where I think they were fighting or something, I don't remember, but they took like the guy's scream and like sampled it and like pitched it up and like made like a little like beat kind of thing out of it. I thought
Yeah.
was kind of cool. But the sound was very interesting, but I
Yeah.
kind of enjoyed it.
Well, Nico, you mentioned it. So talk a little bit more about the porn sax. What's good with that?
It's just so fully, completely irreverent and tonally disjointed from literally every other part of the movie that I guarantee you will just bust a gut laughing when you hear it. It's almost like a reverse jump scare in a way. Like, just both times when it happened, I was just fully taken aback and nearly did spit takes both times, honestly. It was just, when they've got you, and god damn it, got me.
That's fair. That's fair. The only other thing I really have to add is, first off, there is almost no spoken dialogue in the first like 20-ish minutes or so. And as a result of that, the movie feels even more eclectic. Like they barely talk. And I mean, even when they do start talking, the most conversation happens after the sex scene with the girlfriend and then at the very end where the two of them have like a little conversation. But aside from that, there's not really a ton of talking in this movie, which I found to be really interesting. And then also some of the sound effects, like I'm sure they had a blast with like all the metal sound effects. And even during the erotic food scene that we talked about earlier, I mean, when she's like licking the fork, it makes this like screeching sound. And it's kind of weird because if I had to interpret that, I feel like she's thinking her, like erotically licking, like the sausage, if you will, is what's going to be turning him on. But it's the fork. It's the metal.
Fork,
That's where the
yeah.
good shit's at. I heard
I also liked when they're zooming around town whenever they did those. the like sound effect was planes like going
that.
overhead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. But now, and I feel like, Nico, I want to go ahead and pelt this ball over to you right now. Genre. What is this movie? We've avoided mentioning it so far. What genre is this movie of horror? What is it?
It's body horror for sure, like through and through. That is, I feel, the point of the movie. It's not subtle even remotely, like David Cronenberg eat your fucking heart out kind of levels of body horror, to be absolutely blunt. This is something that is a shorter package than most of the films we review on here, and so it condenses a lot in there. And the 67 minutes that this is, nearly every single minute there was on screen something that was either revolting, confusing, disturbing, and just physically uncomfortable to look at.
I see. Now, in terms of a theme, Dan, where are we looking at in terms of themes?
Why'd you have to ask me this question? Because I don't
Thought you
know.
might know.
I don't really know. Is there a little bit of like at the end, like closeted, like homosexual vibe kind of thing? Like, I don't know.
Maybe?
I don't know.
Oh,
Because
the
at the
two-
end, they're like, our love will conquer the universe. And they merged and became a penis tank together.
They sure
All right.
did, huh?
So to be fair on that count, I did think about that. And also, this is not what I think, but this is what I think the movie is saying. I'm just going to clarify that right now. But I don't know if the dream was meant to be a nightmare or meant to be erotic. I might have mentioned that off
Yes.
the pod at the start with the lads.
Both.
But like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't know, because she like shoves like a real big thing up his ass, and his reaction isn't like it's one of like taking it and not one of like fear. You know what I mean? Because that dream could have gone differently if it was meant to be interpreted differently, I feel like. And
He gets his O face on, is what you're saying.
yes, and I don't know if like he feels like he can achieve that because of the whole metal thing better with the metal fetishist. You know what I mean? So I don't know if like he links the two experiences in his mind, and now he's into this dude. Although to be fucking real, they're both like metal sexual. I feel like at this
Yeah.
point,
Correct.
like
100%, yeah.
I feel like that is the preference here. And I don't know. Like it's one of those where I'm sure someone could really sit here and analyze that, but I'm gonna say it turned into a giant penis tank, and I was too busy laughing.
Yeah.
To really
It really
determine what the
felt
fuck.
like I can't say Saturday morning cartoon, but just like this movie is at the same time turbo violent. It is goddamn silly. This is
At
one of the
times.
silliest movies I've ever seen. Like, especially the parts where we have the just super fast stop motion, like where they're racing each other down, like it's some mix between Initial D meets fucking Hellraiser. And you just can't help but laugh at the sheer absurdity of it all. Like, I am almost hesitant to say this, but I feel almost as if this kind of goes above and beyond theme purely just based on the aesthetic. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but this is just, man, it's certainly something, huh?
Yeah.
Now, and I asked this just generally right fast. It's interesting to me because this film is often noted as an example of Japanese cyberpunk. Now,
I
when
was fucking
visualize-
thinking that! I was gonna compare it to Cyberpunk later. Go on.
Well, when I was thinking that, cyberpunk to me, from a more Western viewpoint, I think of, like mega corporations, and I think of Blade Runner. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think about when I think cyberpunk. And this takes place in a pretty average Japan. Like, it's Japan. There's no towering, things aside
Japan,
from the
like
regular.
in the 80s, not something super advanced in the future.
Yeah. So I was like, well, how is this cyberpunk? But then I remembered listening to someone mention, I forget what YouTube channel I was watching it on, but just kind of like the root of cyberpunk and like prosthetics and how like, machinery really ties deeply into that. So in that way, I could see how this could be a forerunner. And, because one big theme of
An edge
cyberpunk is
runner,
also
if you will.
posthumanism. Well, there's a lot of edge running going on in this joint, but
Bro, they go so far past the edge.
yeah, but I mean, posthumanism, I feel like, is a theme that I would pick up on the most because they're kind of evolving
That's fair.
beyond
Yeah, that's fair. Totally.
being human.
Yeah.
And that was my cogent thought.
That was
How about
some big brain
I'm
stuff, actually.
fucking impressed.
I am too.
so anything from you guys on the cyberpunk genre at all?
I was thinking about particularly how addictive the sort of modifications are, particularly in the Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and I assume the game. I haven't played it. I've only watched the show, so I might be doing myself a disservice by making this comparison without that context, but I disregard any of that. And it just felt like the driving force for him was just he always needed more. He always needed to get more advanced, more corrupted, more ingrained into his body, that he is like going for more of what's the difference between cyborg and android?
So
One of those two.
The android was like Dr. Giro and the clown one. And
Yeah.
technically like 18 and 19 were cyborgs in Dragon
Okay.
Ball Z.
Either way, this guy is becoming far more monster than human, is the point that I was trying to make there. And I don't know which one of those fits better, but
So be it.
could be neither.
And now, do we see any kind of inspirations that we think might have helped inspire this movie or influences that we think this movie might have had on other movies?
I don't know if this is something where we can sort of connect the dots between, Cronenberg's The Fly all the way to this, but I feel like there's certainly some sort of lineage there, particularly in regards to the fact that this is like a body horror piece through and through. Regardless of it being a body horror, though, I really feel like with some of the more... I can't. Some of the less horrific scenes, I guess, felt much more almost inspired by like old kaiju cartoons or like Ultraman or something.
So first off, you're absolutely right. And one of the genres that I read for this movie online was actually relating to that. So that's funny that you pulled that out. But also, to your earlier point, the director, Tsukamoto, has apparently referred to himself at one point in time as one of Cronenberg's disciples.
No shit. Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Now,
job,
Dan,
me.
I don't know if you see anything in particular because I don't want to call it out. Is there any movie that you've seen, maybe an anime, where you would say you see an influence from this joint?
So I think I know where you're going with that, but I'm going to take a different anime influence because, yes, I did get a different one.
Ooh.
Okay.
But their end fight scene, when the fetishist actually like shows up and they're fighting, there's
Right.
like he's like cyborged or whatever out kind of, and he's got like the flamethrower cannon thing in his hand.
Yeah.
That reminded me very much of that one dude from not Saitama, but his like Saitama's disciple.
Gino?
Yes, Gino. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
For One Punch Man?
Yeah. So he reminded me like that, like 2 minutes reminded me of him. But yeah.
Go for it, though,
Well-
Justin. Make the comparison we all want to make.
Are you thinking like Akira?
Yes.
Yes. I guess Nico. Hey, Nico.
Hey, Justin.
Tetsuo!
Canada!
Okay, now that we got that out of the way,
Thank you for obliging me.
thank you. I think that this movie, and I'm sorry for whoever has to, Dan, fix that sound. I tried to back away. But
You both did actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
yeah. Now, Akira and this kind of came out around the same time, the film anyways. The manga came earlier. I haven't read the manga, but maybe it didn't. I don't fucking know.
Mate.
I don't know. I actually don't know when the manga came out. But regardless, a lot of things that happen to Tetsuo in the Akira film remind me of what happens in this.
Yeah.
Particularly at the end of Akira, which, by the way, if we can review this for the pod, we can definitely review Akira at some point.
Oh,
I
hell
feel
yeah.
like. But it just the whole. So I don't want to say too much, but just the machine body melding, I feel like happens in that
For
movie.
sure, yeah.
So I don't know. That's my take on it. And I feel like there's been a lot of questions answered here. I feel like it's almost kind of one of those good therapy sessions we have where we get to some conclusions and there's maybe more on the horizon. But Dan, this movie's called Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Tetsuo?
It's a damn good question. We don't really know. They never name the characters. So there's just salaryman and metal fetishist. I feel like it's both of them.
Oh.
Because I think that Tetsuo sort of maybe starts as the metal fetishist, but then he sort of like infects the salaryman. And then at the end of the movie, they combine into their penis tank. And I guess the penis tank is Tetsuo, I guess.
Oh, and the Iron Man is like a little wink and a nod to something else, huh?
Yeah.
All right. I see you on that.
Yeah, this is secretly part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, everybody.
You're looking for the wrong Iron Man there. I know this guy called Tetsuo was going to be Iron Man. Interesting. No.
Who is this Tony Stark?
Oh, wow.
Tetsuo made this in a cave!
Yeah, in that movie, wasn't he like, he was in a cave because like, it was like the Taliban or something caught him or some shit like that?
It was the Balaban.
And it was like, and they were like forcing him to do some shit. I never seen the first Iron Man movie, just putting that out there. And
you've got it right so far.
So he had to like build, and so he like put together a couple rocks and stones and made the Iron Man suit, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So, okay, I guess I could see that happening. Now, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. It's kind of a wild question in this context.
All right.
But what's your favorite scene in this movie?
Yes, I have a favorite scene.
Go for it, Dan.
All right. So this is gonna start really weird, but then end, I think, funny.
Okay.
My favorite scene is after he gets the phallic metal thing shoved up his ass. There's a quick little moment where it shows them like zooming through town again, and right after they zoom through town, it zooms in on a no parking sign. And I found that fucking hilarious. I died.
Well done.
After he got it shoved up his ass, he was like, no parking.
That's pretty funny. That's actually pretty funny. That adds some context to my earlier statement, maybe. But,
fuck.
Nico, you got a favorite scene?
Well, it was gonna be that, but my second favorite scene is when they are just fast and furiousing down the streets of Tokyo in something that looks simultaneously out of a visual novel and also out of Hellraiser and also out of Ultraman and also out of a Tool music video. It's just so wildly discordant that suddenly there is an actual foot race going on.
Are you talking about the penis tank?
Yeah, well, leading up to the penis tank before they get into it, to like polymerization together or whatever the fuck happens there.
By the way, I feel like the penis tank would be a boss in like a Hellraiser or Final Fantasy VI crossover.
Oh,
I mean, you do fight a train.
You do fight a train. You dead ass can suplex a train. Real ones know.
So, I think my favorite scene is just kind of...
Shout out to Final Fantasy VI.
You're right, of course. But when at the beginning of this movie, when he sits down next to the lady at the train station, and then she kind of turns into this monster and just fights him. It's funny you mentioned Final Fantasy VI, because that was the most RPG-ass moment.
Yo, for
it was just like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah. And I was like, yo, what? Like, he just engaged in combat out of nowhere. And he tried to use flee a couple times, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
So, like, he just had to fight her, I guess. But that was so wild. And, like, things just happened with no explanation. Like, things would just happen. And I would be like, why is this happening, movie? Nope, not gonna tell you. And just like, blow. And I mean, I don't know. that was my favorite scene, just because like he just literally engaged in a fight with a random ass person who just got transformed into a metal monster, which I'm like, yeah, I could see that happening in, in a game. And if I could just do one more just as the pod, at the beginning of this movie, when his girl calls him and they're talking about some shit, they exchange hellos about fucking 50 times.
At least.
They're like,
At
mush
least.
mush? Oh yeah, mush mush, mush mush. I'm like, yo, okay, you both answered the fucking phone. Enough. So I get it. It was funny though. It was
That's
funny.
probably half the dialogue in the movie.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Probably it is. So let's go ahead now and talk about the what would you do. And you know what?
Oh man.
My question's a simple one. If you were going to turn into a metal monstrosity, what would you look like? Yeah, see? Got to think about it.
I was going to say you pulled an easy question, but that's
not.
not
This is
that
like
easy.
actually difficult. Yeah.
I'll go first. I'll give you guys time to think. So, when I was a kid, I used to like the Megazord from Power Rangers.
Hell yeah.
So, I then also saw that there's Voltron, right?
Hell yeah.
So, I would kind of become like Voltron in that I would have all my like body parts be like detachable and shit. And like, I don't know if they be lions. They could maybe be like flamingos or something. But then they could all like combine back up and make me like Voltron. So I want to be
What's
like
the,
Voltron.
the most famous bird or cultural bird native to Trinidad?
Scarlet Ibis.
Okay.
I was going to say,
Damn.
It's a
be like
flamingo.
on a fucking
Yeah.
ocelot or some shit.
Ah, yes, that famous bird, ocelots.
I meant outside of the bird thing.
Yeah, no, I'm fucking with you.
But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking
What
of.
if it was a
Nico,
winged ocelot?
the one winged ocelot.
Sorry.
All right, no, keep talking. What's your metal monstrosity?
Oh man, that sounds like a fucking bar from Aesop. I feel like there would just be some other thesaurus terms in there, just after that cavalcade of linguistic monstrosities.
She said I talk a lot, bit off my head like a one-winged ocelot. But no,
Yeah, fucking right, exactly. But no, I feel like I would transform into some sort of, you know how there's the colossal titan where you can like see all of the sinews of its flesh. I feel like those sinews for me would be guitar strings.
Okay. All right, Dan, what kind of monstrosity are you turning out to be?
I was going to say like something kind of similar to Nico. I was going to go like microphone route and have like microphones and like transformers.
USM 57 looking ass.
Yep. 58, I'll just be like a ball head.
okay.
And then I would just have like parts of like an oven and shit
Oh,
sticking out.
Throw an easy bake in there.
remember this for when we watched like Hellraiser 3 or 4. I
Yep.
forget which one it is.
Yep. Uh-huh. That's exactly
But-
what I was thinking. Microwave, no,
Any-
DVD player.
Yeah. Anyways, don't worry, Nico, you're innocent yet. We'll show you later.
Okay.
But-
All the sights you will see.
Indeed.
Oh, no.
So the criticisms now. You got anything to kind of talk about this movie you don't like?
No, and I'm not saying
Which
that
sounds
I love the
wild.
movie, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this movie is so... I can't suggest anything to this movie because I don't even... It's like, you know how they say there's some animals that can see in different like visual spectrums and
Yeah.
realms than we can?
Different realms? Oh, shit.
Yeah, you didn't know about that? Well, anyways, so this movie is in a different
You know,
realm
like
to my
a
mind.
mantis shrimp, they have so many rods and cones they can see God.
Maybe, but all I'm gonna say is this: I can't say anything about this movie because I don't feel like I have the, in like Mansions of Madness, you got like a sanity meter or like a sanity amount.
Yeah.
I don't have the sanity to face this movie and truly comprehend it.
Damn.
So I can't.
This is
say
the
anything,
first movie on the podcast that has defeated Justin.
Yeah.
But
Holy shit.
I will say though that I praise the short runtime of the movie because if you're
Yes.
going to subject
Yes.
somebody to this, it cannot be a 2-hour affair. So I'm glad for the short runtime. But And you knew it was coming, right? You knew it had to be coming here. What did the critics say about this movie? Now, know this. Nico somehow got the last one exactly right. Spot on the money. Let's see if it happens again.
Odds are 1 in 100.
We'll start with you, Dan. I'll give you the first choice here.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm going to say 64.
64 from the critics for Dan. Nico.
I'm going to say 54.
Well, Dan wins.
Yes.
Because this movie has an 82% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. Okay.
Which I understand to be an aggregator. Everyone go fuck off. But yes, 82% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Just as a little toss aside here, 76% from the audience. So this movie's actually pretty well liked. Pretty well liked, I'd say. But, you know, sometimes you can't just be taking the weight of the world like Yorha. You got to focus on yourself. So what would you give the movie?
I would give the movie 35.
Damn.
I didn't really like it. Now, the last like 15, 20 minutes, I actually kind of enjoyed. But most of the movie, I was just trying to figure out what was happening. I think my score might go up. It did go up throughout the course of the podcast. I think it might go up more just over time a little bit. But I don't think I'll ever get to like a 76 or whatever the audience had, like nowhere that close. But I didn't particularly enjoy it. It was odd. It was so out there that it struggled to keep my attention. It's one of those movies that I feel like you kind of like have to pay attention to, but so much shit is happening that it just doesn't make sense. So I couldn't really pay attention. But yeah, 35 for me.
Mm-hmm. Nico, how about you?
I was really hoping you were gonna go, Chess. I can't say that I had a blast with this because I didn't, but I feel like the last movie that so thoroughly caught me off guard and just like took me out of pocket like this was House. And I feel similarly to this as I do House insofar as I think it achieves. I'm not sure what the exact objective was for the director and the cast here, but I feel like they did it. They achieved it like 10 out of 10. Like, you have succeeded in completing your artistic vision. And I think that itself is very impressive. One thing I will say is I'm glad this is in black and white because I feel like if it was in color, the prosthetics would have just made this look absolutely too silly. I feel like it would have just looked like an art project gone wrong. And for all of that to say, I'm going to give this a... I literally, as I'm saying this, still don't know. 62.
So I'm going to give this a 50. Now, the reason why I give this a 50 is this to me feels like, and I should say this up front, this is how much I like the movie, right? And I liked the movie at a 50. I agree with Dan that at parts it failed to hold my attention. There's so much nonsense going on in this movie at times that it's like difficult to grasp. And as funny as the sped up parts are, they just don't connect with me. They don't hit with me. And just generally, a lot of shit to me just doesn't make fucking sense. And maybe, y'all remember Housewife?
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big fan of that movie. And the difference for me, because Housewife was also very much out there, but I feel like I could connect some dots in Housewife. And I feel like I can't connect those dots here. And to me, as a viewer, that makes all the difference. So I'm going to give this one a 50 with the caveat. I feel like elements from this, I feel like this is a highly influential film. And I don't find this film to be enjoyable. I will never watch this movie again unless there is something that prompts me to. I will never watch this again. Hey, I'm going to want to watch a movie. Let's watch Tetsuo, the Iron Man. Like, no, I never will. If someone's like, hey, I want to watch a fucked up movie, I'd be like, yo, go watch Tetsuo. But yeah, so it's not it for me. And I think we can kind of tell how this is going to go, but let me ask anyways, is this a movie that the podcast would recommend?
Surprisingly,
No.
yeah, I would.
Wow.
Well, I wouldn't.
I would not.
So unfortunately, this does not get a recommendation from the pod, therefore not getting the golden seal of approval either. But we want to hear what you think, dear listener. Were we right? Were we right? Were
Two
we
of us
wrong?
were.
Yeah.
Are we somewhere in the middle? Regardless, feel free. We're on Twitter, for as long as it stays up, and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. Plus, you can check out everything we've done on our website, which is, of course, dotdhorror.com. Till then, stay frosty. Try not to try and replace your body with actual metal pipes and such. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door.
Rock and Stone!
Bye.